Good morning, YouTubes and RPG community. This is Infinite Roleplay. My name is Nelson. I'm a power gamer. Fear me. Uh, Recently, the debate has been resurrected once again. Power gamers, immersive gamers, people who would consider themselves immersive gamers, saying that they're role-play gamers and it's a role-playing game. Well, it is a role-playing game, and everyone plays a role, even the power gamers. I've said it many times in the past, and I'll continue to say it over and over. We should just be gamers because if you remove any part of the equation, then you're missing out. If you say power gamers should not be playing, you're damaging the hobby. You're limiting the community. We can grow and we can learn from each other. We can evolve. You know, when I first discovered this online community and started seeing everyone post up their games, you can see an evolution happening. You can see a track, a development. People who have, I guess, more of a performance background or of a desire or a talent to perform have been performing on these videos, and other people who don't perform or who aren't used to performing, you can see them picking up on this, learning, growing, adding to their arsenal of role play, little role play gamer bag, pulling tricks, going descriptive, doing facial expressions, voices, movements, characterizations of the character that they are playing in a game. Now, I can come across and be like, well, if you don't do a voice, then you're not role playing. You should not, don't even play anymore. Learn how to do voices. What? That's just, frankly, you being an asshole. Everyone has something that they're good at, and that's what they're good at. Everyone has something that they enjoy, and that's what they enjoy. To discriminate against them because of what they enjoy is wrong, especially when they're not really doing any damage. In the posts before I fixed my camera, I asked for a specific representation of how a power gamer ruins the game. That was a statement that was made. Power gamers ruin the game. Well, that is such an idiotic statement. So I asked for an example of how does a power gamer ruin the game without being a disruptive person? How does being a power gamer in general, that big broad stroke of the brush, how does that ruin the game? And some of the things I got, well, if they're a power gamer, then we all have to basically get on their level. That doesn't sound like it ruins the game for me. If you don't know the game, if you don't know the rules, learn the rules, learn the game. If someone else puts together a series of these rules provided to everyone, because we're all on an equal playing field, an equal and level playing field, and yet being a power gamer is unfair. Shoot me. I didn't make that statement. But yeah, what are your exact definitions of this power gamer thing? Because I see myself as a power gamer. I also see myself as an immersive gamer. Because of the whole ridiculousness of this debate, when I'm playing games, you often see my tag is totally immersed power gamer, because it's funny that can actually be a statement. I'm a role playing gamer. I shouldn't you shouldn't even be able to tell what totally immersed power gamer means, because that's what we all are as gamers, right? We all get the rule book for a game. We all build a character, okay? We don't make the conscious choice. Let's use 5th edition as an example. When you play a game of 5th edition, do you make the conscious choice to play a fighter? I want to play a fighter who has a criminal background. He had a tough childhood growing up and he was always on the streets. And when he got old enough, he got in enough trouble, he wanted to change his life around. So he joined, the neighborhood watch, the city watch, and trained and learned how to use swords and armor and became a very established fighter, right? His goal was to join the church and serve the church and help people and help the less fortunates like he was in his youth. But because of his past, he's not on that level yet. So he's a fighter who may go into cleric or paladin in the future. Now, when you make that character, do you give that character a 5 strength, an 8 dexterity, a 3 intelligence? Do you make would you make the conscious choice to basically gimp your character? Would you always voluntarily fail a roll if you get into a social interaction and you go, my character would be socially awkward in this discussion? You go, no, I think I will voluntarily fail every roll you ask me to make, DM. DM goes, well, this is what you told the character, the NPC. Roll me a diplomacy check. I know diplomacy is not a thing, and 5th edition is charisma now. But anyway, roll a check, a social check. The DM may want it for whatever reasons. It's their game. They run things, right? We go, well, if I have to roll, I will voluntarily fail. Would you do that all the time? Would you do that when it's more interesting? Or would you just pick up the dice and roll and see what happens? You know, I'm a power gamer. I build my characters and I look at situations and try to overcome the situations to the best of my ability and my character's ability. I don't see the problem with that. In real life, you do that. If there's a problem, you try to conquer the problem or solve the problem to the absolute best of your ability, right? So why is it a problem when you do it in a game? Someone really needs to explain this to me and do so in an educated way that makes sense. Be precise. Don't paint with broad strokes. Don't say, well, power gamers are bad because, they killed the boss that I had designed too fast. Well, if you're ill prepared as a game master, as a dungeon master, you're ill prepared. That's your fault. It's not the player's fault. You want the players to beat your bad guys. You want the players to solve your situations. Unless you're a sadistic bastard that doesn't want your players to progress at all. You know, I welcome power gamers. Welcome. I welcome role players. I love them both. I want them both in a little package. Don't be a power gamer or a role play gamer. Be a gamer. Welcome that. Love it. Love it. As a power gamer, as a GM, most times, from say combat point of view, since It's pretty much where people blame power gamers for being bad. Combat. I have yet to be challenged as a game master. Sorry, but it's true. But power gamers and social interactions, right? I don't get it. What's the notion of a power gamer? What is a power gamer? The one thing that I don't like at a table is when one person tries to make the game all about them at all times. But that's not because they're a power gamer. That's not because they're an immersive gamer. It's because they're a dick. But that's a person to person issue. That's not a style of gaming issue. I've met a person back in the Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition days, before D&D Next was mentioned, talking about a pixie monk who can do all this damage and occupy the same space as an ally or an enemy, can move so fast. And I was like, wow, that character is really imbalanced. Completely legal, rules legal within the system. Fine, they didn't cheat at all. He optimized the hell out of his build to be that sort of combat powerhouse, to do one thing and to do one thing better than anyone else. And when I saw his build and I saw him playing his build, he did that one thing really well. Not magnificently, because combat is somewhere else you can role play. It's a part of role playing. You don't sit around and, move chess pieces in combat. It's more than just that. You, it's like playing chess while acting out a play and voicing all the characters. There's so much more. If you're not role playing, you're missing out. But also, if you're a role player and you are role playing and you're immersed and you're just picturing that image in your head, you just slayed this orc and you're covered in their blood and you're wiping it from your eyes, the sweat falling in there, stinging, burning, blurring your vision. Taking a moment to not play that turn, just to describe the scene that is playing out in your head, is great. But if you suck at combat and you're fighting with a sword, or like you said, made mention, cleric fighting with an axe, he has damaging cantrips, which would be better to use because he's better at it than swinging the axe. And you're fighting with your axe and you're constantly missing because you have absolutely no proficiency. Your party is getting beat up, your party is dying. Your friends, your compatriots, the people you're adventuring with are suffering because you are just absolutely no good at what you're doing. Is that not being disruptive? When you have the ability, your character has the ability, you as a player have the ability to help your party to benefit the group as a whole, and you're like, no, I'm going to play this out in my head. I don't care if you die. I don't care if you die. I don't care if you die. I'm going to be cool. Isn't that being disruptive? Or is that just what you immersive gamers do? Personally, I don't think it's an immersive or power game thing. I think it's just an individual being a bad gamer. You know, tabletop role playing games are a collective experience. Your gaming group is a gaming group. Okay? You may be into individuals, but you have gotten together as a group to have a group experience. The GM is not out to kill all of you guys at all times, to crush you, to destroy and shatter your spirit. No, you know, they're there to present the stage for your characters. You may lose a fight, you may lose an argument, you may have the town guard out for blood, but it's all things that can be resolved in game. It's all conflict presented to you and your characters for your characters to grow, for the story to unfold, for the experience to be had. And players are part of a group. They're there for each other, for the experience. If you think that there is a separation between the ability to get immersed, to role play, to, have verbal discussions in character, to visualize, or to build your character and optimize, those are all completely separate things, separate categories of play, then I really do think you're missing the point. I think those are all things that are part of play. If you're missing one, go get it. Reach out, grab it, learn it, embrace it. See if it fits you. You feel comfortable with it. Is it fun? Do you like being in a group of people that perform that thing? If you're a power gamer who's always been in a group of power gamers, and you find yourself in a group of people who get deeply immersed, who have these characterizations, these visualizations and verbalizations of their character, and you've never experienced that before, don't be like, I can't. You guys suck. You're nerds. No, don't do that. See if you could learn from that. And I've noticed that people are doing that. I think Maps and Dragons has videos about, his RPG school. Ooh. I love you, Phil. But you're a prick. Anyway, he does the whole visualization thing. Oh, he recalls back to the women and running his fingers through her hair, and all this overt sort of, I guess, noirish description, but admits to not really being able to do or enjoy in character verbalizations, carrying on a discussion. Does that make him a bad gamer? No. He has something he's good at. He does what he's good at. He enjoys what he's good at. Does he want to learn or try to learn what he's not good at to add to his repertoire? I don't know. Ask him. That's his choice. But do you discriminate against someone who can't? If you have a power gamer who can't go into that deep discussion of, how his armor is polished or how his armor is tarnished, stained with the blood of his foes after countless ceaseless battles going from place to place, how some of the links in his chainmail are rusted away, how he may sans a shoulder pad and all this descriptor, and the look in his eyes as he reflects upon when he was a youth and watched as his mother was raped and his father was murdered, and all this deep descriptor and getting into his character and sharing it with everybody. If someone can't do that, doesn't mean by default that they're a bad player and ruining the game. When you're doing that and some other player in a physical confrontation goes, I'm going to hit him with my axe. And in one shot, just kills whatever he hit with the axe. And you're like, but I didn't get to stab him. You suck. You're a bad player. You always do this to me. Is that why you're upset? I don't know. Fucking explain this shit, because I really don't get it. I don't. There's no need to compartmentalize people, to segregate people and styles and say, you're right. Oh, you're wrong. Your whole entire group is wrong. Your whole entire style of play is wrong. You know, tabletop role playing games as a whole aren't designed to be one, but separate encounters which make the story can be one. They can be overcome. Situations can be overcome. The story as a whole doesn't end until your character retires or dies. So, for those of you who approach a tabletop role playing game as a video game that has a finite end, most of the time it doesn't. One shots do, or if you have a predetermined length, then it has an end. It has an end goal, something that needs to be achieved. But if you're playing in a general campaign, you can't get more sandbox than a tabletop role playing game because you don't have a program that has limitations. You have a person, and the only limitations on that person are the limitations that they've put on themselves. And if you have a person running the game, a game master, who doesn't believe in those limitations, then the possibilities are endless. And because of those endless possibilities, that's why I love role playing games, tabletop role playing games in particular. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just going off on a tangent, I'm rambling. I've got so much to say about the subject, and I could probably go on forever on the thing. And I think maybe we should have a sit down. We should get a camp of people and have half of the people arguing, or maybe I shouldn't say arguing, debating the fact that they are immersive gamers and role playing gamers ruin the game, and have them debate why role playing gamers ruin the game. And then have, power gamers, and then have power gamers come in and be like, yo, I'm just doing me, and argue their side of the point. I think that would be interesting. But yeah, now that I said role playing gamers ruin the game, there is a case. I've seen it. People say power gamers ruin games. Have yet to mention why power gamers ruin games specifically. What in their past has made them feel like someone who has optimized for something ruins the game? In my case, I stated it in the comments in one of these posts, but I'll reiterate it here. The player was a good guy, wonderful guy, beautiful personality. But in the game, we were presented with a situation where we had to help this town out. And this town was going to be raided by orcs. They were being extorted for, their food, their barley, and all that stuff. And they didn't make their last payments. They didn't have enough. And the town was going to be raided by orcs. They were going to be razed to the ground. They were fearing for their lives. They couldn't leave because their entire livelihood was in that town, yada, yada, yada. But this one player, we were in the tavern, and they said, what season is it? Okay. Is it raining outside? It's not raining? Oh, so if it's not raining, it must be sunny. Are the flowers in bloom? What flowers are in bloom? Are lilies in bloom? Because I love lilies. Okay. The orcs are coming to town, and they're arriving at the town, and bells and going off, whatever. Ah, lilies. I go over and I pick a lily. I smell it. It smells sweet, doesn't it? Oh, I love lilies. Beautiful flower. Things are going on. Stuff is happening. The rest of us are trying to protect the town. This player, I want to go back into the tavern and find the most beautiful woman, and I want to give her this lily. And I'll tell her that, her beauty and the beauty of this lily just go together, and, he's getting into it. And yet outside, metal on metal, flesh being carved, screams of pain, hatred, war happening as we're trying to defend the town, and he's picking lilies. And he was, this is one example, one. And he's like that all the time. Always about what his character wants to do specifically, regardless of everything happening in the world. And that's why he sucked as a player. Not because he was role playing, but because he was disruptive to the group. He was all about himself and no one else. At least while he was playing the game. And that's why we had to kick him from the group. But that is a personal issue. That's the person, not the style of play. I love to role play. But if you don't like power gamers, if you don't think using the rules provided to you to the best of your ability is a bad thing, if you think that's a bad thing, then why don't you just go LARP? Really? Because, those are role players. If you're like, oh, I'm a role player and it's a role-playing game, nah, fuck you, LARP. Those are role players. Because if you ain't LARPing, you ain't a role player. All right, if you're sitting at a table with a bunch of friends rolling dice, you're a role-play gamer. Gamer is in there. Dice, mechanics, rules. It's part of the equation. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with live action role play. The fact that you guys do your costumes, get dressed up, and that's amazing. I love it. I can't do it out here, not because of me, because nobody else does it, but that's still amazing. But yeah, if you're taking half of the equation away, you get LARPers. As a matter of fact, if anybody who sees this actually LARPs, chime in. Let's get everyone in here. The fact of the matter is we got to grow our community. This is a hobby. We share our hobby. We should not be compartmentalizing the hobby, saying, you guys suck, go away. Grow the hobby. If someone who's never played a tabletop role-playing game before wants to play, and they're used to all these video games or tabletop war games or board games, and they default to that power gaming mentality, and they enjoy it, and they want to get into the hobby, and they want to play, let them find a comfortable spot so that they can learn more. And then show them, oh, well, okay, now instead of just roll this, when they roll an attack, go, how do you attack? How did you overcome this enemy? Oh, you rolled a crit? Describe to me how that critical hit looks. You have complete agency to make it look as awesome as you would like. And then let them, that power gamer, explore this new territory that they have yet to explore. If you meet someone who just wants to roleplay and has fun, roleplay with them. But let them explore, introduce them to the more mechanical side as well. Because we're playing with these rule books. We're playing with these dice. There are mechanics to this experience because it's a game. That's why it's a role-playing game. When they're in a fight and they're rolling dice and they can't hit anything, they can't get away, and they're just doing so bad, and they hate combat, and they want to blame you about combat, help them with the rules. Help them. Did you read this? Did you look at that? Did you build for this? Help them to learn the rules better. There's, you can go either way. Don't just be like, well, we role play. Well, I roll dice. What do I need to roll to make a smile? Do I need to roll a diplomacy check? What's the DC on a smile? No. That's bad. But that's not the default on a power gamer. Maybe they don't know better. If they're playing where everything has to be defaulted to a role, don't do it. Just ask them, okay, what's the DC to make this person smile? How are you trying to make them smile? Describe to me this. All right? It's all about sharing an experience. All right? If you're not ready as a dungeon master for someone who has built for a specific task to be excellent, superb, the best that they could possibly be at this one thing, then they're bad at other things. But if you're not prepared for them, then you're ill prepared as a dungeon master. The fault is not on the player. It's not the player that's damaging the game, simply by the fact that they're just too good at what they do. That's like being overqualified for a job. We can't hire you because you're too good to do this. So go collect unemployment or something. We're not hiring you. That doesn't make any sense at all. And neither does discriminating against a person who has a good character build. But also know that if they have a good character build, if they're min-maxed, if they can swing an axe better than anyone in the party 10 times over, they might not be good at social interaction. So you could always pass the spotlight to a different player for social interaction. As a game master, that's sort of part of your responsibility, is to share the spotlight. You have the spotlight on the group, and then maybe in this interaction, we move the spotlight over to this player. The next interaction, we move the spotlight onto that player. Let them all get used to sharing the spotlight as individuals and as a whole, and that's what you do. Don't be a bitch. Power gamers don't ruin games. People ruin games. Right? We don't have this problem in the crafting community, which is funny. Or at least I haven't noticed it. If we do, it's so small, I guess. We have. Do you play with terrain? Yeah, play with full 3D terrain. Love it. Models, the whole nine. Do you play with 2.5D terrain? Yeah, I do. Love it. Paper models and all. Paper tokens still. Love it. Awesome. Beautiful. Do you play with maps? Battle maps? Yep, I do. Love it. Dry erase mats? Yep, I do. I prefer most of the time to switch between full 3D and 2.5D, but that is my personal preference, and I understand that. And I never fault anyone else for their personal preference. I love playing with 3D terrain, and when I DM, I use my terrain, and when I'm setting up my terrain, I don't pause. I describe, there's techniques, but that's another discussion because I'm about to start rambling on again. So, if you got a problem with power gaming, with power gamers, state your examples and be able to separate the individual from the style of play. Because power gaming can be done incorrectly. Role playing could kind of be done incorrectly as well. But that is not the fault of the style. You can't blame the style and say that's the wrong way to do it. Because if you do, you're a dick. Know that. I just want a game. That's it. I want a game with gamers. You want a game with gamers? Come see me. So, my name is Nelson. This has been Infinite Roleplay. Peace.